Mm-hmm. 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 Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to work, cause my boss is a jerk, and I'm not even that paid. I need a change in my life, cause I don't feel alive, and there's nothing that makes me happy. Hold my beer for a minute, I'm about to quit my job, cash in for a ticket. I'm going on a trip and I don't plan to visit. I'm gonna stay there till I feel like I'm winning, and this is just the beginning. I need a big change, help me feel like living. I need a big swing, home runs I'm hitting, and I'll never look back, moving on till I get it all. And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be? And do you believe you can do anything? But what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?
Welcome back to Beyond the PPT, the show where we go beyond frameworks, beyond certifications, and beyond the slides to discover the stories, struggles, and secrets behind great learning leaders. Thank you so much for subscribing to The Quiet Man Who Learned to Speak by Anand Sridhar and Connecting with Human Emotions by Ankita Bharadwaj Gill. It's so important that we understand that the first podcast was a social message, that it's not about the skill, but it's about the willingness that we are able to learn. And the second one is about how do we have a frame of reference when it comes to our emotions rather than being reactive. How do we become more proactive, understand our emotions, and understand the emotions of others? Do you hear the thunder rumbling in my background? I'm sure you would. You know why? That's because today's guest has a rather unusual job. Imagine walking into a company where employees are disengaged, managers are overwhelmed, learning programs aren't delivering results, and leadership teams are wondering why performance isn't improving at all. Most people would call it a problem, but our guest today calls it Tuesday. Can you imagine? She doesn't just train people, she transforms cultures. She doesn't just build leadership, she builds the entire pipeline of leadership. She doesn't just design learning programs, she helps organizations prepare for a future that hasn't even arrived yet. Now, here's the surprising part. Many people think organization development is all about policies, processes, and HR frameworks and this and that, etc., etc. But today's guest believes that the biggest transformation doesn't start in boardrooms. They start with conversations. Conversations that change mindsets. Conversations that shape cultures. And conversations that ultimately transform businesses. Joining us today is an organization development and a learning consultant who's been helping organizations build future ready leaderships, high performance cultures, and capability ecosystems for decades together. So please join me in welcoming Alisha Gupta. Alisha, welcome to Beyond the PPT. It's wonderful to have you with us today. And the climate also is kind of reverberating with you and your presence today, I must say. It's thunderous. Now,
Thank
talking
you so
about, uh, now, before we begin, Alicia, I would like to understand with a very simple question. And the question is, what's one thing people completely misunderstand about organization development, Alicia?
First of all, thank you so much for welcoming me to Beyond the PPT. This is something very exciting that L&D, is a very close topic to me. And beyond the PPT is that motto which closely relates to this topic, where I go on saying L&D is not limited to a department or a function. It's a thought process. Until someone understands L&D as a process in one's head, he will drive it or he will limit it to managing training calendars, managing schedules, pre and postponing the trainings because the SME is not available or the guests are not available, and so on. But someone who understands L&D just doesn't happen because of a training topic, but going before 3 4 steps and understanding, why do we need a training? Do we need a training? Do we exactly need this topic for our training? All of these backgrounds really set up the L&D process. And since you asked this question, that what is the most common misinterpretation in the market that people have related to L&D is this, that without understanding the need of a training, I'm not even going to understanding the topic, without even understanding whether this training is in fact needed or not, they just jump onto a conclusion. This is the problem, we will have a training. This is the problem, we will have an engaging event with lots of food options. No, this is where the people are not understanding L&D is no more an engaging event, but it's much beyond that. So it's beyond the PPTs.
Thank you. And it feels like you're endorsing, my channel. So thank you so much, Alisha. See, one thing or two things that I'm able to understand. I remember very distinctly you mentioning a particular line. When we had a first conversation, a couple of days back, where you said L&D is more of a thought than just a transaction. If you remember that.
Yeah, true, true. That's what I believe in.
Right. And second thing, what I also gather from what you just said is it's not about training, but it's about the intent behind the training that we really need to focus on. Right.
Absolutely.
Why we need what we need.
True.
Right. So, in that context, I would probably ask you, so what first attracted you to organizational development and learning, Alisha?
Sure. There's a interesting story behind it, but I would not bore you with that story.
No, 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 no. We would definitely would like to hear that story, Alisha, because stories are extremely important. Please narrate that story. We are
All
all
right. So,
ears. All my ears, though I have it
sure,
very
sure.
small, but I'm listening to you and complete undivided attention. Please.
Sure. So the story starts where, a very small town girl, I belong to Patna, and you would be knowing that anyone from Bihar would not be known for culture transformation, right? We would be known probably as IPS officer at the best, or a laborer, two extreme points of the
On a
career,
very
right?
lighter note, also a Naxalite, okay?
Oh,
But
sure. Why not? Yes. So, I belong to Bihar, and from a small town girl, because I have grown up for 19, 20 years in Patna. That's my hometown. So, while I was growing up in the industry, so you will see my early career experience comes from Wipro, TCS, IBM, American Express. These were my building career pillars, right? Like from the larger ecosystems, I was trying to understand L&D, like how does this function? And fortunately or unfortunately, I was not in the position to take a decision right away, but I was trying to measure the gap. Oh, there is the gap. That is why we are not getting successful. Like the introduction that you gave, that everything is in place, but why people are not performing? So that gap is what I understood in those experiences. Now, fortunately, what happened is I got to know that, oh, even though you have not studied OD earlier, you have chances to get into it. And that's when I went for a master practitioner course in OD, which was recently completed. But then I got into that. I started learning the frameworks. What is very important for someone to understand to perform OD, right? So I started learning that, and slowly and steadily, I started practicing within the frameworks, within the ecosystem where I was a part of. And I would say that it was God's help or God's helping hands that whatever I studied, I got the projects simultaneously to perform it. And I was able to drive results. That's when OD happened for me. And I said, no, OD is my kick and I would get into OD only. So that's when OD happened.
Two very, very, very strong things that I can kind of feel at the moment is one, you are very inspiring, Alisha. You're very inspiring the way that you are able to talk your mind out and the way that you're expressing yourself and the passion is something that is so visible in your eyes. So that's
Thank
something
you.
that I wanted to tell you. Second, and the very most important thing is there is a stereotype when it comes to a state like Bihar. And trust me, you are breaking every single stereotype today. One. Second thing is a woman from that particular state is breaking that stereotype and is standing strong in front of the entire community. I think you are doing wonderful. So that's a hearty compliment that I would like to give you, Alisha, because when women like you inspire, then we have those blazes of other women who get inspired and who really want your or who want to walk your path.
Sure. Thank you so much for the compliment. And while you say so, while you were giving the first compliment that, from Bihar, I have been able to break the stereotypes. On top of that, I've never been to a English medium school. Never, like never, ever. So on that,
That's
yeah,
even more incredible because probably I'll get into that segment a little later. The reason being that's again an inspiration, Alicia, and I will tell you the reason why a little later. Okay, so talking about your journey. Okay, so talking about how you unearthed, how you've understood OD. Everyone talks about culture, right? So how do you define culture in a practical business term?
sure. I would give some very small examples, like our day to day live example, right? When you enter an organization, like literally enter as a guest, as an employee, but when you enter, you see a guard who stands up and says, "Good morning, madam," or "Good morning, sir." That's the culture. When you enter inside the office premise and you sit down, the very first person who comes and asks, "What is the agenda? What are you here for? Are you here for interview?" That's the culture. In what tone, in what manner did he ask you for water? Did he greet you anything, or he just jumped onto, "Okay, sir, you have the scheduled interview at this so and so person is coming." What is it? That's the cultural differences. When you are walking down the lanes, you are seeing someone at a managerial level giving feedback right in the row. That's the culture. He is not able to understand this is not the place to have a constructive feedback, right? So that's the culture. And these, I always give this, what do we say, jumla, right? I always give this jumla to my clients box that, my eyes and my ears are always functioning. Whatever you guys are doing is a observation for me to understand where is the cultural gap, and they're so happy that they don't have to literally give some download to me. We are failing here, we don't have this, we have this pain point, because my eyes and ears are already working while I'm walking right there in the premise. So at times it happens when they're about to say something, I say, "I know, I heard it." And the person says that, "Oh wow, you already know it." Yeah, because I was walking and I got to know that. This is culture. You don't have to read papers to understand our organizational culture, because your employees talk about your culture. Your policies do not talk about culture. They might be very flowery, using very good English and nowadays chat GPT English, but the real culture comes from employees, the surroundings. That's how I define culture.
So one thing on a lighter note that I want you to do is आपको भगवत गीता पे हाथ रख के कसम खाना होगा कि आप कभी इंग्लिश मीडियम नहीं गई हैं. It is
Yeah.
unbelievable, Alisha, the way that you are responding to my questions. The way that you're articulating is way better than most English learned, educated people. And it is, I would say, an inspiration to the entire nation from where you were to where you are today. Oh my God, it's an eye opener. It's an absolute eye opener for those who feel that, oh, this is my background. I did not go to an English medium school. And this is the difficulty that I have. My family doesn't support me, and all of that. All these are excuses. If I'm determined, I can achieve anything. I can reach at least to the rooftop, if not through the sky. Right? Oh my God. You are such an inspiration, Alisha. And I thank
Thank you so
God that
much.
I'm having this conversation with you.
Thank you. I just wanted to add something there that
Of
since
course,
you said
please.
that I have not been to a Hindi medium school, Bihar and in fact Patna is known for one thing, which you must have heard. 30 दिनों में अंग्रेजी सीखें. Have you heard of it? This is there. But I never became a part of that Jumla again. I said that if they are claiming that they can actually train me for 30 days and make me proficient, why can't I work on myself and work for 30 days to become something, right? And you would not believe at that moment we didn't have ChatGPT. That was not ChatGPT era.
Of course,
That
it's
was,
our generation. Yeah.
I call it the determination era. I always call it
Exactly.
because it had already an amazing story to it. I had an amazing professor at my 12th who used to teach English. Like English was a subject, right? In 12th standard, when you study PCM, you have an vocabulary subject. So one is computers and then one is English. That is what I took because I always had interest in speaking English. This woman would talk some different level of English. I would give you a small example. Once she was dictating and she said Kashmir, right? The Kashmir city. She said Kashmir, and I have kept that notebook with me. I wrote Kashmere, Kashmir. So understand the difference, the understanding of words at that moment, and now when you see this. So I understood, oh my God, where I am. Like I have to really, you know, keep my game up now. I can't be talking like this, like Kashmir as Kashmir, right? So yeah, and then it instigated a lot. So I became a voice and accent trainer first. So I not just cleared some of the examinations. I became the certified voice and accent trainer first. I was in Wipro teaching voice and accent and in cultural trainings as well. So I'm US and UK certified voice and accent trainer as well.
I mean, how
Yeah.
many more surprises do you have for us, Alisha? I mean, this is like incredible. I don't know what to ask you next, but I do. I have a lot more questions for you, Alisha. But yeah, one thing that that inspired me, and I'm sure it's going to inspire most others, is a term that you very particularly use, is the determination era, where we are determined, right? So, it reminds me of a movie, English to English. If you remember Devi, the way that she struggled for
Yep.
those, 4 to 5 weeks, and how she kind of cracked through and she made herself very visible, right? So it's not about limit. It's all about limiting beliefs also,
True.
right? I,
Very
I feel that this is all that I can do. So it's a limiting belief. It's a boundary that I'm kind of making for my own self. So that's again another challenge that I would say that most of us have, right? So beautiful, beautiful. I mean, I really am like so thrilled. Now, talking about OD a little more. Okay. And this is something that I think is a very common thing. First time managers, right? And I'm sure you would have dealt with first time managers and their learning journeys, etc., a lot. So the question is, what mistakes do first time managers make very commonly, Alicia? And not just the mistakes, but then what do you suggest to them when it comes to making sure that they have the consistent performance as a first time manager, because that's the first leadership role that they've taken up. right? Yeah.
I would first talk about the first time manager programs that I conceptualized. Um, I had this belief that many a times a first time manager is definitely a manager, but he is a human being first, and that's when
Beautiful.
he becomes a manager, right? So are we particularly talking about is he following the basic mannerisms that any human being does, right? And then when we are good with all the takes of a basic mannerism, that's when we move to managerial traits. When he does not understand how a manager has to behave like a human, how would on the earth he be behaving like a manager? So that's when I conceptualized a pre assessment. This pre assessment would not talk about any business problem. It would talk about the basic mannerisms that I and you will expect from any ABC, not considering this is a first time manager or this is the 15 years old manager, right? This assessment will tell me where is the understanding level of this person on communication, on delegation, on managing his own time. These are basic power skills, I call it, right? These are power skills, your life skills, right? Like you drive a car by learning the driving skill. I always go on saying this, बहुत लोग बातें तो करते हैं पर बातें ही नहीं करते, right? बहुत लोग बातें करते हैं but बातें नहीं करते. The problem is communication is not taken that seriously, and it is like that leeway has been given to people that since you can talk, just talk, right? You don't talk sensibly. That's what the communication is, right? So when I'm talking about the assessment, this is the assessment I'm taking. I'm not talking about any business problem. If you are in this business problem, how would you literally talk to your stakeholders? How would you communicate this problem? No, that's far. First, how do you communicate with your stakeholders generally, right?
Correct. How do you have that
That's the
relationship? How do you
right.
build that trust with them? Right. Yeah.
Right. So that's the first pre-assessment. So now I'm explaining the structure of any first-time
Mhm.
program, first-time manager program. So I would do the pre-assessment, which will talk about all these power skills in 8 segments. It is designed that way because the deck that I have prepared is for 2 days and it is distributed in two parts. One is of four and one is of four because the activities and simulations are designed that way. So all of these 8 traits will be segregated in that assessment. It will have few questions in a very tick mark like ABCD multi choice, what we say, and then couple of 2-3 questions where you literally have to define something. You just can't just put the tick that okay, I understand this. So this kind of question. So fortunately or unfortunately, the first assessment that I designed, people failed miserably, and I wouldn't give the name. So people failed miserably, and I had the chance. I went to the business stakeholders and said, "See, these are your first time managers. So, what I'm claiming is they need a nourishment, not a lecture, but the nourishment. How a newborn baby needs a nourishment and not lecture, right? Would you call a 1 year old, chalo, time pe khana kha lo? No, he would not give a damn, right?
Exactly. Beautifully
Sorry
put.
for my language. So that's when the first time manager has to be treated like a newborn baby in the organization. He doesn't know how to behave, right? So I said that now these people need nourishment, and that's when I designed the curriculum of the similar 8 topics that I asked questions from. These were designed, then I did not stop there. I went one step ahead after 30 days because while I was doing the pre-assessment, I also had their managers, meaning their reporting managers, rate them on these 8 skills. Because I did mention before becoming a manager, you are a human being. So, how the manager would rate you at these skills were already collected. And after 30 days, I also sent this very same tracker to these managers to see how the rating has improved. Unfortunately, again, I could see the 62.8% improvement in my first time manager batch. So that's what it is. That's how it should be.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. And it's not just interesting. I think you should do a session, specifically on first time managers where I'll be inviting you. And probably we can collab on that where you don't have to reveal everything. Let it be a little, high on the high level. But I think people really need to know, understand what first time managers truly need to have. One. And the second thing is um, also there is an expectation versus reality that the leadership team also really have to understand. And you really nailed it by saying that, they are like children. The first time managers are like children, right? And they
Yes.
really need to be taken care of in the beginning so that, they show results, in
And
that.
I'll just take these moments from you and will add this example because
Yeah,
this is our
please,
industry's
please.
truth, harsh
Yeah, yeah.
reality. When you said the leadership also has to understand that these are to be treated like children, I have literally heard some statements like, "Are naye kyun hai? They have been into industries, right? Why they have to be treated like children?" So you understand the skill gap is there as well. The leadership has to accept that until today, he was responsible for taking his responsibilities, his targets, right? He can't be just able to strategize everything in 1 month or possibly after 90 days also because he does not know the transition of that particular skill. He might be knowing the business. You can consider that he was in the same business for 3 years and he has understood and now he has been given the team lead position. Yes, business acumen wise, he's good. He's possibly at proficiency level 3. But when you talk about the behavioral skills which are used to leeway your business acumen, is failing badly. That leadership has to understand.
Yeah, so you know what, Alicia, just to your point, I just want to add another point. You know, when we are trying to promote people to become people leaders, we don't consider whether they're capable of leading a team or not. What are their
Yeah.
people skills? All that we focus on is how well have they been able to perform in their business duties.
True, true, very true, and that's the sad reality of our industry.
Exactly.
I would openly say that that's the sad reality. I will give another example. Couple of
Yes.
days ago, I was talking to one of the business leaders for in some different aspect, and he literally wrote this beautiful line before aligning the position and everything. I would want to know you beyond your CV. Like you say, beyond the PPTs,
The
he literally
PPT.
wrote beyond the CV, I want to know you. And that's how people have to be evaluated. You really can't just rely upon these beautiful looking CVs because again, this is the chat GPT era, man. Everyone is copying the very same. There's this common word I get very much intrigued to, spearheading. Many a times I have asked this word to people that you have written that you have been spearheading. What do you mean by that? He's like blank. I don't know. ChatGPT suggested.
They don't even
Yeah.
understand the term spear, right? So that's the whole point of content. You
No,
know
I
what?
always say
Yeah,
that. I always say that one has to understand the human behind that role. Until
exactly.
unless you understand the life skills and power skills of this person, who that person is, that's when you move one step away, ahead, and ask, would you be able to perform this? Would you be able to perform that target? We are in this problem. Would you be able to resolve? And da 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 da. But before that, you have to go one step away and ask who this person is.
Unfortunately or fortunately, AI has taken over. And because AI has taken over, there is something called the application tracking system. And it doesn't have any emotion connected to it, right?
True, obvious, obvious.
Right, and it only does only one job, which is matching the profile versus the job description. And if it matches to a certain percentage that they have already pre determined, it kind of passes that particular profile, or else it doesn't.
Yep. It rejects quality profiles, I must say.
Exactly my point. It rejects, and we get automated responses from the ATs itself saying that we will not be able to go ahead with you. And there are so many organizations which are using it, but they are not using it to the effect of their betterment.
Yep. Yep.
You
It
get
has
where
been
I'm
just
coming from.
used to leeway the TA's time, probably. I know this can, but this has been utilized to only leeway TA's time. That's it. That's the motto.
No, that's there. But okay, I think that's a very sensitive topic, and I don't want to make it
Yeah.
very controversial. But I'm just a little worried for the future generations because they may not really understand this completely, right? And they might rely on AI so much that they forget that there is a human element that also needs to be brought in to the whole profile, and you have
For
to
sure.
bring your whole self to that particular profile, right? So I think this is going to be my last question before my last segment, um, Alicia, is what skills will remain valuable no matter how much technology advances?
I just answered this question for you. These are power skills. These are life skills that I call. Like, you need to be a human first because technology can replace almost everything, but not the human. You know, technology can bring the efficiency, technology can save you money, technology can, tell you how to replace a person with a machine. Technology will never bring a smile on someone's face. Only a human can do that. So the power
Absolutely.
skills.
All right. So this is something that is beyond the PPT signature question, and this is just one question, which is, what's that one conversation that changed your life, Alicia?
I was facilitating a session in American Express and was a co-facilitator. In fact, this instructor who was an American fellow was teaching, and I was just co-facilitating like a small topic here and there. I had to take over. Someone in the room did mention the very first statement that you actually appreciated me on. Bihari padhayegi hame. That really changed. That was a little harsh to my heart. And I said, now is the time. You
When
have to.
you really have to, like, yeah, I completely understand. Okay, so all the serious talks are over, Alicia. Now we're going to have some fun, and we
Sure.
are going to have a very quick 5 questions. The condition is you don't have time to think. It has to be very spontaneous,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
has to be on the go. Okay,
for
ready?
sure. I'll make sure people get the vibe of Coffee with Karan for to 5 minutes.
No, 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 no. I want to brand myself. I don't want to brand Karan Johar.
Oh, then the vibe of Anand.
Anand Shankar. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right. So it is OD unplugged. Okay. So that's the round. One corporate buzzword you would happily ban forever.
Spearhead. Oh my god.
You hate it, it seems.
I
Okay.
am getting irritated these days with this word now.
Okay. So you can only save one. Would you save culture or strategy, Alicia?
Culture.
And why?
Because I feel once culture is strong, strategy will fall in place.
Fantastic. One leadership habit everyone should start tomorrow morning.
Effective communication. You can see my
Effective
expression as well.
communication.
Effective
I know.
communication. It has to be.
Okay. So if organizations were people, what's the biggest personality flaw most companies have?
The attitude. I talk about competency. So the answer is attitude. And I would explain a bit that, many a times people do not understand the four pillars of competency, which is skills, knowledge, ability, and the most important,
Correct.
attitude. So that attitude.
Fa- Fantastic. Very well put. Complete the sentence in one line. The future belongs to leaders who?
No people.
No people, is it?
No, as in KNOW, no people.
Okay,
Who
no
know
people.
people.
Okay, KNOW. Okay, understood, understood, understood. Okay. Okay, so the final question and the closing question that I have for you is, Alicia, if you could leave our listeners with one message about building great leaders and great workplaces, what would it really be?
My advice would be to be very authentic, I would say. Technologies are there to help us, to enable us. Be you, be authentic. Bring something of your own. This is how I have conceptualized, this is how I have designed. right? Put your own brain into it. I go on to say in many forums that, until and unless you build something of your own, you will only rely on instructions. You prepare something of your own, that's when you understand that the science behind it, and then you will be able to take the instruction or reject the instruction. So to the new generation as well, I always say that first understand, build something of your own, be it any framework, be it any product, service, anything, but build something of your own so that you understand the difference between which instruction has to be taken and which has not to be taken.
Oh my God. I mean, I am thoroughly impressed, Alisha. I really want to thank you for your time. I really want to thank you for bringing in such bright insights. Thank you for being such an inspiration to so many people who will be watching this particular video. The reason being, you have become a self made woman and you are a true inspiration to so many who would definitely be watching this. And it's not buttering up, it's not just a compliment, but it is something that is from my heart for you, Alisha. So,
Thank you so much.
thank you so much. And I would like you to help me build more subscribers by asking them to like, share, and subscribe my channel. And what did you feel about this conversation, Alisha? Please.
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me in the very early period of your podcast. So, I always say the early ones are always special ones, right? So, your podcast
Absolutely.
really gets a special place in my heart, to be very honest, because I am in the early podcast guest. Now, one thing I want to say to your audience is the title itself tells how authentic you want to be. When you say beyond the PPTs, meaning you don't want to talk any business boardrooms, but you want to talk how a person feels about certain things in the society. For example, that is OD, that is L&D, that is emotional resilience, whatever it is. But how a person thinks and operates within that is very important for people to know, and that's when you get that beyond the PPTs. That's very good topic. I am giving this just a very good topic, and I would request everyone who is listening to this, please cascade, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and keep learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alisha. And I am sure we're going to have a sequel to this particular podcast that we had today. And we are going to talk a lot more. So thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day ahead, Alisha.
Thank you so much.